Hi, my name is Rebecca Bartlett, and this is my presentation on a case study, Missing Booster Club Funds. After reading the case study, the first thing I did was to begin to identify the problem by looking at what we know. What we know is that George Washington Middle School is a small school with only one administrator. There is a strong community involvement. Parent volunteers are relied upon. There is a decreasing socioeconomic level within the community. George Washington Middle School student Lucy won a cheerleading competition, and her mother, Mrs. Bowman, requested that PTA funds be used to finance her New York City trip. Mr. Stevens, the principal, denied Ms. Bowman's request, stating that funds were designated to benefit a majority of students, not just one. And after meeting with Mr. Stevens, Mrs. Bowman worked the gate at George Washington Middle School basketball event. Mrs. Bowman handed the bank bag to Mr. Stevens after the game. The event was very busy, and the event workers worked feverishly to accommodate the crowd. Mr. DeMoss stated to Mr. Stevens that he paid entry with a $50 bill. Tickets number 78 through 88 were recorded by Mrs. Bowman as damaged via a handwritten note. The accounts balanced minus the missing 10 tickets, but there was no $50 found during the principal's account. The principal counted the money in the presence of the security guard. The next step is to analyze the facts to determine what is pertinent. This revealed things that we need to know, such as what are the procedures for handling money during events? Who else handled the money during the basketball game? How secure was the money during the event? Was a lockbox used? Have helpers, parent helpers, and staff been properly trained in procedures? Will someone be preparing a financial report for the event? And if so, who will that be? And is there a scheduled debrief with that person? What are the procedures in place for ripped or damaged tickets? What happened to those damaged tickets? Are they still there? Can Mr. DeMoss's claim be verified, or was it figurative boasting speech? Is he prone to exaggeration? Or maybe he tried to use the $50 bill and was asked if he had smaller bills in order to not cash out all the change in the cash fund? Was the bill given out as change? Did somebody at a later point see the bill and trade in two 20s and 10 for it? And was Lucy's participation in the all-state cheerleading tryouts a school and district sanctioned event, or was she there on her own? If it was a private event versus a school event, that really changes how things should be handled in the future. With all the facts and data laid out, the next thing to tackle was setting outcomes. The outcomes that I would like to see happen: number one, gather all the need to know information. Number two, update the procedures relating to large bills and RIP tickets. Number three, fundraising for special events. And number four, encouraging more staff volunteers. In the next 4 slides, I will detail the plan of action and appropriate implementation strategies for each of these outcomes. So the first plan of action is gathering data and information based on the need to know. The strategies for implementation are reviewing the current procedures to determine if they cover the issue of RIP tickets, meeting with Ms. Bowman or the person who presented the financial report regarding RIP tickets, and plan for the best approach in dealing with this sort of issue in the future, reviewing the training procedures and ensuring that proper training has occurred, and make any adjustments to procedures if damaged tickets are not covered. The second plan of action is to update procedures to include issues that have arisen, such as bills over certain denominations and the RIP tickets. So the strategies for implementation are: write out the best practice procedures, such as not accepting bills over $20, or bills over $20 to be verified using a bank pen, verified by 2 members of the team, and then placed in a lockbox. And RIP tickets should be attached to a damage form and signed by a supervisor, with the originals turned in with the report. Number 2, meet with the district financial office to determine the best policies and update those procedures with district approval. And number 3, ensure proper training based on all these new procedures for all those involved. The plan of action for proposing fundraising for things like the cheerleading trip and any school-sanctioned events. The strategies for implementation are: number 1, select and meet with the team to brainstorm effective fundraising. Fundraising could include spirit wear, such as shirts that are specially designed for staff, students, and the community that showcase the event. Tag days where certain items of clothing may be worn for a fee to gain some money. Bake sales or raffling off different prizes. The second step is to review the district policies relating to the fundraising to ensure compliance. No, the third step is to create procedures for this type of special event fundraising for the future. The fourth step is to obtain district approval. And then the fifth step is to meet again with the team to actually set up the fundraising and to monitor and ensure that it's going. A plan of action for having more staff and students working events. The implementation is to, number one, determine the incentive that would work, such as evaluations. In our district, we have an evaluation that's linked to extracurricular events such as attending school functions, stipends, so teachers and other staff members would be paid for that sort of event. Change of duties, so instead of having a hall duty, maybe they could swap out and do a gate duty. Earning complimentary time for their time spent in that capacity, so they could cash it in later and have some sort of vacation included. The second step is to meet with the business office and athletic supervisor to determine the best procedures for staff incentives within the current district policy. Then it's creating procedures for these incentives, gaining district approval, and then after all that happens, meeting with the staff to make them aware of these incentives and hopefully signing them on for upcoming events. A priority of school leaders is to ensure the academic success of all students. As I'm solving this issue, I'm thinking of the entire student body as well as the 3 individual students, Mrs. Bowman's children, who could be adversely affected. Mr. Stevens claimed he could not use the PTA funds to finance his New York trip because the funds need to benefit more students. Therefore, I propose to fundraise for special events and competitions as the need arises. So athletics, academics, art, music, clubs, these are all things that every student can participate in, and they lead to competitions and special events that aren't always planned, but that provide students with additional competition or additional chances to present or to learn. Setting up procedures for fundraising for these unique student opportunities can really help encourage all students to a higher level of growth. They'll be provided with new challenges and just open up a bigger arena for them to showcase their skills. In my personal experience, working at a district with a majority of students coming from low-income families, I've seen a need for this funding. To provide students with the best opportunities, districts need to be prepared. This year, we have students going into all different competitions and winning different contests. And luckily, we learned from the past to encumber funds for these events. Regarding specific student success, Mrs. Bowman has 3 children who are students in the district. The well-being of these 3 students is the district's responsibility. The potentially missing $50 could become an embarrassing issue for those children, opening up them to gossip or feelings of shame. So it's very important to safeguard the student's well-being, and ways to do that is to not accusing anyone of theft without sufficient evidence. And as there's no video evidence, and this is just a lot of hearsay, it's not acceptable to accuse Mrs. Bowman of theft. And really to focus on the procedures that are currently in place or upcoming procedures that are going to be applicable to all. So dealing with this going forward and making sure that something like this cannot happen again. Being that this case study presents multifaceted issues concerning fiscal policies and procedures, it is important to consider what I'm personally thinking, feeling, and valuing to ensure that I'm acting in ways that are ethical, fair, and benefit all students. So what I'm thinking is we don't have enough evidence to determine if there was a theft. This case has revealed that there are actual breaches and best practices that we can address. Changes must be made to prevent similar future occurrences. And there are definitely missed opportunities for important life skill learning events for the students, which is definitely something that is a priority in correcting. I'm feeling that want doesn't usually lead to stealing. Just because somebody wants something, it doesn't always mean that they're going to steal to get it. I feel that we were only given insight into Mrs. Bowman's circumstances, which leads to bias. She did not work alone, and she's not the only one who needs money at certain times. This could all just be a misunderstanding based on assumptions with the facts that were provided. Things that I'm valuing is the well-being of Mrs. Bowman and her children. I'm valuing the experiences that arise as a result of student excellence and the need to prepare for those experiences. I am valuing the importance of appropriate and clear procedures, which I think was definitely lacking in the case of what to do with risk tickets. And I'm valuing the need for special considerations for districts with high percentages of low-income families. In the case, it states that the socioeconomic status is on the decline. So this is something that's going to potentially affect them this year, next year, and so on and so forth. So to properly fundraise so students are not limited with their opportunities is definitely crucial. While my proposed plans of action will solve some of the issues that become apparent during this case study, there are still some unresolved issues that are open to further data collecting and investigation, such as what happened to the $50. If it was theft, the thief has not been brought to justice. The second unresolved issue is fundraising for special events and what the PTA booster funds are designated for. So the funds could not be used for Lucy, but what are they instead being used for? The third is who's accountable for the money during special events? Who handles that money during the event? And who writes the financial report? Is there a clear chain of command when it comes to dealing with these finances? Number four, increasing staff participation and the roles of staff during special events. Will the incentives be effective? Will this take the burden off parents and change that shift of responsibility? What is being done to put procedures in place to counteract the socioeconomic decline of the area? Next, I'm specifically going to reflect on standard 8 and providing evidence that I, as a leader, promote the academic success and personal well-being of every student by ensuring effective and efficient management of the school or district to promote student, social, and academic learning. First, I'll explain how I demonstrate knowledge and understanding of operational procedures at the school and district level and issues relating to fiscal operations of school management. First, I'm all following procedures that are already put in place, and I'm realizing gaps or procedures that are not currently aligned with best practices, and then I'm updating procedures as needed. I'm ensuring that the procedures are checked and verified and carried out by the staff and volunteers with fidelity. I'm including the district by meeting and consulting with the business office to ensure alignment of procedures. I'm ensuring funds that are properly handled and distributed among the student body. And I'm setting up new procedures to acquire new funds for special events. So circumstances like Lucy not being able to attend the cheerleading competition wouldn't happen in the future. Next, I'm going to reflect on evidence that I, as a leader, promote the academic success and personal well-being of every student by ensuring effective and efficient management of the school or district to promote student, social, and academic learning. To ensure personal well-being, I'm ensuring that issues are handled in a way to prevent student discomfort. I'm putting in place preventative measures for this type of ethical moral dilemma in the future. I'm shifting the responsibility into relying on the staff so parents don't bear the burden of the stressful financial issues. And I'm solving issues relating to cost burden, knowing this issue may arise again due to the socioeconomic downturn of the area. I'm focusing on academic success by ensuring that this case does not impact the academic success of students by taking away from instructional time to handle the issue or train the staff. I'm using this as an opportunity to create needed procedures for special trips and events to benefit all students. And I'm ensuring that funds are used wisely and to benefit the current student body, and new funds are created for special learning opportunities. So therefore, our students are going to be able to compete at higher levels with increasing opportunities for success. in a larger arena than just the town, just the district. As a leader, I am working within the school community, and I'm accountable to various stakeholders. Therefore, it is important that I demonstrate my commitment by thanking the PTA for their continued support and letting them know how pivotal and appreciated their continued involvement is with booster events and athletic events, and so on. By communicating with all stakeholders the need for updated procedures, clearly stating the security of the funds as student learning opportunities when training parents and staff. That I engage in ongoing discussions with board employees at the district level to communicate needs of new procedures and align with the policies and gaining approval before any actions are taken. As this study revealed, the regular monitoring and modification of organizational systems is important. I'll do this by establishing two-person teams when handling money, verify counts prior to turning in money, by setting up internal audits and ensuring all annual audits are taking place. I'll ensure procedures are properly written and accessible prior to the school year and available in a format for parents to easily have access to obtain signed copies of a written agreement to follow the outline procedures from all participants, such as staff and teachers, to ensure that proper training occurs and checking that proper training has occurred by checking logs and creating online platforms to make training even easier, by requiring financial reports for every event that are created by a person designated prior and submitted within a week of the event. And these financial reports will document the earnings, document any damages or errors, and contain any original documents such as ripped tickets or receipts that might be important. The way I engaged in problem solving was this four-part process where first I needed to understand what the problem is. Then I needed to make a plan to resolve, and then I needed to carry out the plan. Then I needed to look back and verify. In order to understand the problem, I read and reread the case study to determine what I knew, and that revealed what I needed to know. I analyzed the facts and data and came up with four outcomes I would like to see to fruition. I proposed four plans of action with appropriate implementation strategies. I also looked back by reflecting on various aspects in Category 5 and planned for future success by including plans for monitoring. Overall, this case study was a challenging one, as the missing funds were not successfully found, but plans to prevent such occurrences from happening are now in place, and these plans were created to ensure the success of all students. Thank you for watching.